Today we are discussing about the uses of ECG in emergency room in a toxicology case. ECG is one of the most important tool in most of the cases in emergency room, including toxicological cases. It's a quick investigation that can be done in emergency room in poison cases. There are a lot of myocardial changes. It can be myocarditis, conduction blocks. There are so many other changes can occur in the heart due to drugs or toxins. So this can be easily picked up by an ECG in emergency room itself. With a clinical coordination, we can diagnose what is the drug patient has taken, what is the toxicity is undergoing. All these things can be picked up. In the practice of clinical toxicology, classic ECG changes may hint the blockage of ion channels, altering of adrenergic tone, or dysfunctional metabolic activity of the myocardium. All can be picked up by a 12-lead ECG or a long rhythm strip. When we consider toxicological aspects of the drug, we have to consider about some channels which can be blocked by these drugs. The most important is fast sodium channel blockage drugs toxicity. Fast sodium channel blockage drug toxicity can lead to slowed phase 0 of the cardiac action potential, and it can produce ECG changes like QRS widening, right axis deviation of the terminal QRS, bradycardia. Some drugs can produce tachycardia secondary to other factors is more commonly seen. Ventricular tachycardia is another common finding. Some patients can develop ventricular fibrillation after ventricular tachycardia. The commonest finding what we see in emergency room is wide QRS complex. Normally you know that narrow QRS means the QRS should be less than 3 small square in ECG. If it is wider than 3 small squares, we have to suspect a wide QRS complex and related drug toxicity when you are suspecting toxicological aspects of the drug. The commonly used drugs are tricyclic antidepressants, amitriptyline, dopamine, imipramine, nortriptyline, all are commonly coming under this class. Then class 1 antiarrhythmic drugs. None of the drugs are used nowadays. Disopyramide, procainamide, quinidine. Class 1C antiarrhythmic drugs are encanide and flecainide. Flecainide is in use now. Local anesthetic toxicity like bupivacaine and cocaine, we are seeing the cases nowadays. Phenothiazines like thioridazine. Antimalarials, one of the common antimalarial is quinine. Nowadays we are not using, but we are still using hydroxychloroquine. It is mainly used in rheumatoid arthritis. Chloroquine also used in malaria. Quinine nowadays we are not using because of its side effects like arrhythmias. Other drugs are amantadine, diltiazem, propranolol. Diltiazem is a calcium channel blocker. Propranolol is a beta blocker. Diphenhydramine, it's cough syrup. Carbamazepine, it's an anti-epileptic drug. So many other drugs also come in this class, but they are sodium channel blockers. Blockage of sodium channel leads to delay in fast influx of the sodium, especially in the cardiac cells. This is represented by a less pronounced slope of phase 3 of cardiac cycle, normally almost entirely vertical. The greater the degree of blockage, the wider the resulting QRS complex. The commonest clinical feature or ECG finding you see in a fast sodium channel blocker drug toxicity is wide QRS complex. Later it can produce ventricular tachycardia or ventricular fibrillation. But the common finding is always, you can see here in the picture, normal QRS, and because of the drug's toxicity, you can get wide QRS complex. Next class of drugs are potassium efflux blockers. Blockage of potassium efflux during the cardiac repolarization, that is phase 3, and can produce ECG changes like prolongation of QT interval, Torsades pointis. These are two important findings. QT interval prolongation, if we are not picking up that finding and not treating, patient can develop Torsades pointis. Torsades pointis is a type of ventricular arrhythmia where you get wide QRS complex. There may not be any P wave, wide QRS complex, and the classical finding is twisting of the axis of the QRS complex. Some QRS complex will be continuously on positive side and then later it switched to the negative side. The twisting of axis is most important sign, but the earliest finding will be QT prolongation, QT interval prolongation. So the drugs coming under potassium efflux blockers are, again, antipsychotic drugs are most important drugs: chlorpromazine, droperidol, haloperidol, quetiapine, olanzapine. All these things come in under this class. Class 1A antiarrhythmic drugs like quinidine, disopyramide, procainamide. Class 1C antiarrhythmic drugs like encanide, flecainide. Class 2 antiarrhythmic drugs like cetralol, amiodarone. Tricyclic antidepressant we have discussed previously. Other antidepressants like citalopram, escitalopram, buprenorphine. Then antihistamines like diphenhydramine, loratadine, terfenadine. Antimalarials like quinine, chloroquine, and hydroxychloroquine. Amantadine. Macrolides like erythromycin. Erythromycin is one of the erythromycin or azithromycin, one of the most commonly used drugs. Even in COVID, we are using this drug. This drug can produce effects because of potassium efflux blocking and its toxicity. Delayed potassium efflux prolongs the action potential in repolarization, and it represented in the ECG as a prolonged QT interval. So these drugs, most of the drugs are seen in both previous class and this class. They can produce prolonged QT interval, prolonged QRS interval. Then patient can have different types of ventricular tachycardia. Here you can see the QT interval is prolonged. Okay, that may be the earliest finding. Then the patient can develop ventricular fibrillation like Torsades pointis. Now you can see here in this ECG, it's a potassium efflux blocker toxicity. QT interval is prolonged. So QT interval is markedly prolonged in this ECG. QTC is 586 milliseconds. So that is markedly prolonged. This can be due to any of the drugs we have explained. Commonly we use in our clinical practices tricyclic antidepressants, other antidepressants and antimalarial drugs and antihistamines. All these drugs we use in our clinical practice, and one of the most commonly drug used nowadays is azithromycin. That is a macrolide. It's used in many respiratory infection including COVID infection. So along with hydroxychloroquine, it can produce severe ventricular arrhythmia. Both hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin are used in COVID infection. So both together can produce severe ventricular arrhythmia. The mechanisms are like this. Now this is an ECG of Torsades pointis. Here you can see first part of the ECG, there is a drug induced QT prolongation, and later the patient has developed ventricular arrhythmia with twisting its axis. Some ECG complexes are negative, some are positive. So axis is twisting between positive and negative, and the arrhythmia starts with prolonged QT interval. We will see what is the exact ECG finding in tricyclic antidepressant toxicity. QRS duration is more than 120 milliseconds. A blockage in the cardiac fast sodium channels in combination with right axis deviation of the terminal QRS. It is virtually a diagnostic feature of tricyclic antidepressants. When you take ECG, you can see following findings. QRS complex is more than 2.5 small squares. Mostly we will see a QRS duration more than 120 milliseconds or 3 small squares. That is a classical finding. But when it becomes 2.5 itself, we should be very careful when somebody is taking tricyclic antidepressants. And clinical features, patient can have seizures. If the QRS complex is more than 160 milliseconds, that is 4 small squares, it is associated with ventricular arrhythmias. So if it is more than 2.5 small squares, that it has gone to toxic dose and they have more neurological finding. When it is more than 160 milliseconds, they can develop ventricular arrhythmia. Right axis deviation of terminal QRS as defined by terminal R wave more than 3 mm in AVR. That is very important and classical finding. RS ratio more than 0.7 in AVR. So AVR is one of the major ECG lead in tricyclic antidepressant toxicity. Most of the time when you are reading ECG, we don't see the AVR because most of the complexes in AVR is negative. P wave is negative, QRS complex is negative, T wave is negative, everything is negative. But in tricyclic antidepressant toxicity, AVR is very, very important. You can see here in this ECG, look at the AVR. The right-sided intraventricular conduction system is more susceptible to toxic effects of these sodium channel blockers, including these tricyclic antidepressants. Delayed repolarization of right ventricle can be seen in changes in the morphology of the QRS complex in AVR. You can see here AVR QRS complex is wide, and you can see positive waves, which causes the presence of a prominent R wave in lead AVR. Normally you don't see any prominent R waves in AVR. We see all negative waves. Here you can see there is a very prominent R wave in AVR. This AVR leads show a prominent A wave hallmark. It's a major sign of sodium channel blockage, including tricyclic antidepressant toxicity. So whenever somebody is taking tricyclic antidepressant drugs, if they come with ventricular arrhythmias or if they come with seizures, look at AVR. If AVR is positive and you get wide QRS complex, a prominent R wave in AVR, it's a classical sign of tricyclic antidepressant toxicity. Next important drug toxicity which can occur in emergency room is cardiac glycoside toxicity. Toxicity because of sodium potassium ATPase pump blockage by cardiac glycosides. It may be digoxin, foxgloves, Odollam toxicity. So digoxin toxicity is very common in emergency room. Odollam toxicity in some part of the country, it is very, very common. It's freely available toxin in our country. It increases the automaticity of our heart, and it decreases AV node conduction. So sometimes patient can have unwanted tachycardia. Some patients can have heart blocks. First to third degree heart blocks are common. The action of the cardioactive steroids, that is glycosides, cardiac glycosides, on the vagus nerve also produces direct suppression of the impulses from the sinoatrial node and AV nodes. So it can sometimes produce suppression of the conduction. So sometimes it produces unwanted tachycardia, sometimes it produces block. So the early phases, some patients can have tachycardia, but late phases, most of these patients present with complete heart block. That is a classical finding. Complete heart block is a major and classical finding. We will see the digoxin effects in ECG. I am not talking about digoxin toxicity, digoxin effects. A downsloping ST depression with a characteristic Salvador Dali sagging appearance. We will see what is that. Flat and inverted or biphasic T wave, short QT interval, PR interval prolongation, that's first degree heart block, that is due to increased vagal tone, prominent U waves. U waves are classically seen in lead 3, peaking of terminal portion of the T wave, J point depression, usually in leads with tall R waves. These are the classical findings, but the most prominent sign is ST depression, that's called as Salvador Dali sign. So this is Salvador Dali sagging sign. So you can see here the ST depression with a sagging ST segment. So that's a classical sign of digoxin effect. It's not an effect of digoxin toxicity. It's a sign of digoxin. The patient is taking digoxin or not. Digoxin can cause various arrhythmias due to increased automaticity, that is increased intracellular calcium, or decreased AV conduction, increased vagal effects at the AV node. The classical digoxin toxic dysarrhythmias is a combination of supraventricular tachycardia, that is due to an increased automaticity of the SA node that produces increased heart rate, it's SVT. Then due to decreased AV conduction, patient can have slow ventricular response or complete heart block. Other common arrhythmias because of digoxin toxicity is frequent ventricular premature complexes. This is the most common finding which we see in emergency room, including ventricular bigeminy or trigeminy. If the VPCs or ventricular premature complexes are monomorphic, they are not dangerous, but if they are polymorphic or bigeminy or trigeminy, they are dangerous. Then sinus bradycardia and slow AF. That is very classical. Some patients can have sinus bradycardia. If the patient is having already atrial fibrillation, the rate will be very, very slow, and some patients atrial fibrillation with complete heart block also can be seen. Then first degree heart block, second degree heart block, third degree heart block, all are common in digoxin toxicity. AF with complete heart block and can have escape rhythms or complete heart block. Then patient can have ventricular tachycardia including polymorphic bidirectional VT. Both are possible. Polymorphic VT is common. Some patients can have bidirectional VT. Now this is an ECG. You can see here there is digoxin toxicity with ST depression, sagging ST segment, and patient is having high degree heart blocks. So it may be high degree, second degree heart block, or sometimes patient is going to complete or third degree heart block. Both are possible in this ECG, but looks like high degree, second degree heart block. Now other important toxicity and ECG changes: cardiac toxicity due to oleander toxicity. All parts of the oleander plant contain cardiac glycosides, something like digoxin, including the roots and smoke produced by burning. The heat does not inactivate glycosides in this oleander. The toxic component of are the two potent cardiac glycosides, oleandrin and nearin. Two are the same like digoxin. Both have positive inotropic, negative chronotropic, and cross reactivity. This includes direct glycoside poisoning of the sodium-potassium pump of the heart and increased vagotonia. Next common poisoning in our country is datura poisoning. Plants containing belladonna alkaloids inhibiting anticholinergic toxicity like datura and Atropia belladonna and hyoscine causes sinus tachycardia and prolonged QT interval. All parts of the plant contain tropane alkaloids such as atropine, hyoscyamine, scopolamine. All this datura poisoning is very, very common in our country. So it's like something like atropine toxicity, which is commonly occurring in emergency room. Because of many pesticides toxicity, we give atropine. So there you can get atropine toxicity. The datura poisoning will remain same like atropine toxicity. Now another important toxicity which can come to emergency room is antihypertensive drug toxicity, calcium channel blocker and beta adrenergic receptor blocker, that is beta blocker. Both can have sinus bradycardia and heart blocks. So these drugs can reduce the heart rate. These drugs can reduce the pumping acutely. Slowly it can improve, but the toxicity presents with severe sinus bradycardia and conduction blocks. Recreational drug toxicity like amphetamine toxicity, cocaine toxicity also can occur in emergency room. Amphetamine and other sympathomimetic drugs produce both peripheral and central sympathomimetic effects. Lethal complications like severe hyperthermia, hypertension, dysarrhythmia including tachyarrhythmias, ischemic heart disease, acute coronary syndrome, reversible cardiomyopathies, dissections, intraventricular hemorrhages, all these things are seen. ECG may produce tachycardia with ST elevation or acute coronary syndrome changes. Cocaine toxicity, it can produce again tachycardia, dysarrhythmias, hypertension, coronary vasospasm including ST elevation or ST depression, and acute coronary syndromes. So we have discussed about the need of ECG in emergency room, the utility of this important non-invasive investigation in emergency room. Thank you.